Hi everybody, Dan Illman along with Mike Beer. Welcome to Breeders' Cup Focus. In this edition, we are going to spotlight the top contenders for the Breeders' Cup Mile based on daily racing form national handicapper Mike Watchmaker's pre-entry morning line. We throw up the list and we see a pretty good European runner named Polydream as the tepid 4-1 morning line favorite on Watchmaker's line. Another Euro import, Expert Eye, is at 5-1. North America's best hope might be Oscar Performance, winner of the Woodbine Mile last time out for Brian Lynch at 6-1. Then you've got Europeans, Gustav Klimt, I Can Fly, Happily, Lightning Spear, One Master. It does seem that the Europeans have a very strong hand in this race. They always do, Mike.
Yeah, it's true. They certainly have. You know, a lot of those Europeans coming in this year are 3-year-olds, which is interesting. But it does feel like they certainly have a stronger contingent this year than they did last year. I felt like last year the mile horses they sent over were a little bit weaker. I think they're coming back maybe with a little bit of a vengeance this year.
Polydream is one of those 3-year-olds, and not only is she a 3-year-old, she is a 3-year-old filly, but she's a Group 1 winner against the boys going 6.5 furlongs at Deauville, and last time out in the Prix de la Forêt going 7 furlongs, she just had a no-chance trip. Let's watch the Prix de la Forêt right now. She is right now in between horses, white cap, white sleeves, blue jacket, and she just has nowhere to go. She has an opportunity as the 15-10 favorite to get in here. Nowhere to run. And listen, you have to take this race with several grains of salt.
Yeah, I mean, this is just one of those situations that it's just really unfortunate as the favorite. He tried to do the right thing and save some ground and sit in behind. It just never opened up. You can see her getting totally shuffled out of the race here in the last furlong. It's way too late for her to do anything. Just a really unlucky trip for a filly who, leading into that race, had won 2 really good races in a row.
I think there are some concerns about the mile, though, for many of the European horses in this race. Polydream kind of has a sprint pedigree, has made most of her money at shorter distances. They ran her in the French 1,000 guineas, and she was well beaten at 6-1 that day. Are you concerned about the mile?
Yeah, I mean, I thought about it a little bit. I feel like, as good as she is at 7, I'm not going to, split hairs that much and say that, the mile's too far for her, especially coming out of that last race. I know that she didn't run well in the French Guineas. That was her first start of the year off the layup. Other than that, I mean, she's shown up every time. I think she's pretty good there.
Expert Eye is a 3-year-old trained by Sir Michael Stout for Juddmonte Farms. This horse is a multiple Group 3 winner this year, a Group 2 winner earlier in her career. Last time out in the Group 1 Prix du Moulin going a mile, she kind of finished evenly. Let's take a look at this race. He's kind of in between horses. You'll notice him. He's in the Juddmonte Silks right now in mid-pack, and they're going to turn into the stretch, and he finished okay, and I thought it was an okay performance. Your take on Expert Eye, do you think if he got clear earlier, he wins?
I don't know if he wins if he gets clear earlier. I thought he ran well in this race. He did have an awful lot of ground to make up through the stretch in this race. He was pretty far out of it early. But this is just one of those races where it just sort of feels like everybody's finishing the way that he is. I thought he ran fine in this race. But I felt like he ran maybe just as well as a bunch of horses in that race. That he's certainly pretty good, though.
He's another horse, though, that is yet to win at the mile distance, and I do wonder if perhaps he is a little bit more effective at this point in his career as a sprinter. Let's talk about Oscar Performance. We know a mile is within his scope. Heck, he can go 1.25 miles on his best day. He did that in the Secretariat in 2017, but he's better at this point now as a miler. His poker win earlier this year I thought was a sensational performance off of a long layoff. And then the Woodbine Mile, he did what he had to do. He got a nice soft trip on the lead, as we see, and he puts away Mr. Haverkamp, who had the home court advantage being based at Woodbine. Nice easy trip here, though, for Oscar Performance.
Yeah, he did. He had it all his own way on the lead here. The pace wasn't fast. You can just see here he's going to hold on in the stretch, and nobody can really make up any ground on him from off the pace. So did he take advantage in this race? Yeah, he did a little bit. But he's also just a horse who, aside from the Arlington Million 2-bet where something went wrong, he's just been rock solid throughout his entire career. And I like the fact that they're concentrated on shorter races with him this year. I really like him at a mile there.
Aidan O'Brien sends out the Galileo colt, Gustav Klimt, who was 4th in the Prix de la Forêt. We showed that replay with the troubled filly Polydream. And while he had a little bit of traffic, he certainly didn't have the issues that Polydream had. And yet, this is another colt who has not won at a mile.
You're right, another horse who's going to try and get the mile here. Again, I'm not that worried about these horses stretching out to the mile in this race. I think they're going to be fine with it. The question, I guess, with Gustav Klimt is, how good is he? Is he as good as some of the other Europeans that are coming over? Because I think that's the real question for him.
O'Brien also has I Can Fly, and I wonder if he is flying under the radar at 10-1. This horse handles the mile, has proven that a mile, and last time out, he gave Roaring Lion all he could handle in the Queen Elizabeth II stakes. Now, maybe he just really appreciated the soft ground that day, but this 3-year-old filly, just gave Roaring Lion a lot of work, and I wonder if she's a long shot that you might want to keep an eye on.
Yeah, I think that she probably is. That race against Roaring Lion, of course, just last weekend, and she ran great in that race. She was a huge price, but Roaring Lion, he's a serious racehorse, and he had to go all in. Now, he was on a big cutback in there, so maybe that had something to do with it, but this filly ran a really big race last weekend.
Another filly, happily trained by O'Brien, might be coming into this race the right way. She took on a good one in Lawrence in her last 2 races. Heck, she's chased Lawrence home in 3 out of her last 4. This is going to be her 3rd start of the form cycle. Now, she didn't run well last year when shipped to North America, but some things didn't work out for her there. She also hasn't won this year from 6 starts. I think she's a little better than she looks on paper.
Yeah, I didn't like the trip she got in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies last year. As a matter of fact, that's a race that you should just put a line through. She had absolutely no chance with the trip she got in that race. Just tossed that race. And then you're talking about a filly who's 0 for 6 this year. But as you say, Lawrence, 3 of her last 4, Roaring Lion in between that, Alpha Centauri before that. She's just been in impossible races.
Lightning Spear beat Expert Eye in the Sussex Stakes, a Group 1 race in England going a mile. If you think Expert Eye didn't want the mile that day, the advantage went to Lightning Spear. I don't know, to me Lightning Spear just seems like an in-and-outer, and while he has won that Group 1, I wonder if he's truly Group 1 class on the international stage.
I kind of agree with that. He did, he's in this Breeders' Cup because he won that Sussex Stakes as a winning year in. Other than that, his form leaves at least a little to be desired. He's a 7-year-old, so he obviously doesn't have the upside of some of the 3-year-olds we've been talking about.
How good is One Master for Lale Stables? She just looks like she's getting into form right now, and when she won the Prix de la Forêt, she paid $94 to win. That was a race, though, where she was where she needed to be on the track to avoid trouble.
Yeah, that's true, but it's at least when she's coming in here, she's doing it as an improving horse. I like to see improving horses coming into races like this.
Any of the other North American-based runners hold any sort of interest for you in here, or does this just seem like a race that the Europeans have us over a barrel?
I think the Europeans look strong in this race, but it's not like they just show up and they automatically have to win when they get here. I'll be interested to see what 2 horses do as far as the stateside based horses. I like the form Catapult's been in Southern California. This is a horse who I thought had a lot of potential early on, and he just kind of, for whatever reason, lost his way last year. As a 4-year-old. I think he's gotten back into good form in Southern California, so he's a little interesting. I don't know if Almanar's getting in for Chad Brown, but I've always had a little thing for him. He didn't run well last time in the Shadwell Turf, but I wonder if he gets in, if he can run better.
Polly Dream, 3-year-old filly, going to be taking on some older boys, going to have to handle the mile, but she did have significant trouble in her most recent start. She is the preliminary favorite, according to Daily Racing Form national handicapper Mike Watchmaker on his morning line. Then you've got Expert Eye, Oscar Performance, wide open, I think, this year's Breeders' Cup Mile.